Hi, I'm Tom Nagorski, and welcome to the Asia Society and to a conversation about Iran. Not the Iran that we've been reading about in the papers day in and day out. It's not a conversation about the nuclear program or about the prospects of war with that country, but a conversation about arts and culture and about a very special event and exhibition coming to the Asia Society. I'm joined by our Senior Vice President, Melissa Chiu. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
For starters, can you dial back in your mind a little bit and explain why Iran? Why, of all the places we can focus on right now in this space, are we looking at art from Iran?
Well, Iran is certainly in the news today, but I think that, here at Asia Society we've had a long-standing commitment to Iran, especially on the culture side of what we do, that Iran is one of the last great Eastern empires. We've shown in the past both Sasanian period works, Safavid period works, and more recently a real effort to look at 20th century. And with that we have our exhibition Iran Modern, and that show focuses on the 50s, 60s and 70s leading up to the 1979 revolution.
So talk a little bit about that time. Some of us are old enough to remember the revolution and the crazy days in that period, which were searing not just for Iran, but for this country as well. But I don't know how many people really remember what life in Iran was like. Again, before we get to the art, talk a little bit about that period in Tehran. We're talking now pre-79.
There are lots of stories around this period of the patronage of the arts, that arts were very much a part of people's lives, at least for a certain group of intellectuals. There was the Shiraz Arts Festival, which had a great impact internationally. There are so many wonderful stories of the interconnection between Iran and the US. I was talking to another man who was working with Andy Warhol for many years, and he told the story of Andy Warhol visiting Tehran and doing the portrait of the Shah and the Shah Banu.
You have said, and I think it's understatement, if anything, it's a landmark exhibition. It's not been gathered in this way before, but what are some of the highlights of the pieces that are coming to Asia Society?
I think we have to remember that because it's a landmark show, what we mean by that is that it really hasn't been done before. It's the first ever occasion to see works that were otherwise scattered around the world here in one place at the same time. And the idea behind the show is really to give a sense of the look and feel of the period. And the period was really the first time that Iran was becoming very modern. So with that, artists were starting to connect to the world. And with that, there's a great variety of media, from painting, sculpture, photography, and even design. But I think that more than anything else, you get a sense of the pluralism of the period, that there was no one art style, there was no one media that really dominated. And so in fact, you could kind of call it a really kind of a flowering of the art world.
Generally speaking, what have you learned, or what do you know about the art scene at that time? We've talked previously about major patrons of the arts coming to Tehran. What was that like?
So I think the art scene of this period was one that felt very international. So on the one hand, you had Iranian artists showing their work in the Venice Biennale or showing their work here in America. And those artists their works were being acquired by major museums like the Museum of Modern Art. Alfred Barr, the director of the Museum of Modern Art in the 1960s, acquired a number of important works by Iranian artists. And some of those very works that have never been shown before are now in this exhibition.
We'll be here. And now there's always a backstory to assembling any exhibition. I'm sure you will get more questions than the typical exhibition with this one, in part because of the logistics, but in part because of the politics. How's that been, and what have some of the pitfalls, if you can share them, or highlights been of that effort?
So no exhibition of Iranian material is ever easy because the US and Iran often have tense political relations, and here in the US there is an embargo. So what that means for organizing an exhibition of Iranian art is that you do have to apply for a license to, or an OFAC license to the Treasury, and so we're in process right now.
Mm-hmm. But have you had, I mean, I've had conversations outside the building a little bit already in talking about it from my inexpert perspective, but have you had any feedback that's questioning or negative at all about what you're doing or what we're doing?
I think some might question why we would focus on Iran when there are some certain kind of incendiary political remarks that some leaders have made in Iran, you know, about various countries or other leaders. And I think that for Asia Society and its mission, it is really about building a kind of a better or greater understanding of what's going on in Asia, and Iran is included in that. And so from our perspective, it's to really show this unique period that is in fact like a blossoming of the Iranian art world when there were connections to the world between Iran and especially even the United States. So it's about creating a better understanding of this period, which is largely forgotten today in the light of a post 9/11 world.
Right, and it's actually, to answer those out there who maybe be asking the question as they watch, frankly, if you delve a little bit into what you have done and what we're going to be doing, it's more likely that the current Iranian regime would be upset, you would think, rather than its enemies. I don't know. I don't mean that we mean to make enemies anywhere, but right. I mean, this is a period that, after all, the revolution was fought to end.
Yeah, I think this period has been largely ignored in Iran as much as outside Iran, and so we're hoping with this exhibition to be able to really set the scene for a greater understanding of this period as a way of understanding even what's going on today.
Is there work in Iran, well there must be, that you really wish you could get your hands on for this exhibition, but we know is not, for whatever reason, going to get here? Yeah,
well, we sent our curators, one in particular, to Iran, and so we do have a work that we intend to borrow from Iran pending our license from OFAC.
Mm-hmm. So stay tuned on that, right? Okay. Now, it's beyond what we'll see in the gallery exhibition halls, in the gallery space. There's also going to be other cultural programming. Can you talk a little bit about film, performing arts, what else is coming? So you could see this as something of a 3-month festival focused on Iran. And so we have wonderful performances by Mohsen Namju, known as the Bob Dylan of Iran. Also some great public lectures, symposia, an important symposia that really looks at the importance of the Shiraz Festival, with some speakers who from here in the States who went across and performed. And obviously some art lectures, panel discussions and conversations, and a fabulous film festival as well that really focuses on this 60s, 70s, and then some current films that look back at the period. Right. Do you want to, as a closing thought, tell anyone out there who, whether they're in New York City or beyond, why they must make it their business from September 6th onwards to find a day to come see the exhibition?
So this is my pitch, right?
This is your pitch. This is your pitch to the millions watching out there.
This is so Iran Modern, your first opportunity to see Iranian art from the 50s through 70s, a unique look at it, an all-important period to understanding Iran today.
Thank you. And I might add, just a really great window into an incredible time, and one that looks strange and different from the current. Thank you, Melissa. And a reminder to everyone, September 6th, opening day here at the Asia Society for this landmark exhibition, Iran Modern. And it's really opening day for a whole series of great programming this fall about Iran then and Iran now. I hope you'll join us. Thank you again.